Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the UFL DFS video for week number 10. If you join me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going through my week 10 sheet, talking about kind of each player, whether or not I would consider them, in play as a GPP option, a cash game option, a pay down option, or kind of a dart throw. Maybe even a leverage option here or there. I'll talk a little bit about whether or not I'll be overweight or underweight to the field on each particular player that I do mention as well. I will start off by saying that this is week number 10. It's the final week of the regular season. None of these teams are really playing for all that much, outside like the St. Louis and San Antonio game having home field advantage. So it's going to be a very interesting week overall. So probably play a little bit lighter this week just in general. If you're familiar with like NFL preseason DFS, that's almost how I would treat this week. So you're going to have to get a little bit creative overall. We'll see how it ultimately ends up playing out though. So we're going to start off with the Birmingham Stallions. Adrian Martinez still listed as a starter. We'll see how deep he plays into this game. So if you really want to play him as a GPP option, you can definitely do that. But we'll just see how deep into the game he actually ultimately ends up playing. Ricky Person Jr. is going to be inactive this week at running back, so we'll see CJ Marable and Larry Roundtree. If you want to take a shot on either one, you definitely can do that. Ultimately, a little bit more like leverage plays than anything. In terms of the receiving options, we got Deion Kane and Marlon Williams. I have both this as GPP options. If you wanted to mix in like a Amari Rodgers or like a Kevin Austin Jr., you could probably do that as well. Be interested to see how many snaps each of these guys play. And then maybe, if you really want some dart throws in like Gary Jennings and Benjamin Victor, then maybe they play a little bit deeper into the game in the second half. We'll have to see how this all plays out. Like I said, this game doesn't have too much behind it at this point in time. And then if you want to take the shot on Sternberger this week, $6,500 GPP option. If he gets the touchdown, going to be pretty good. Obviously, he had a very, very effective week last week. If you really want to do a deep throw at tight end, play Marcus Ballard, Jordan Thomas, you could definitely do that as kind of a second half option of that game. In terms of the defense, going against the Panthers, I do like them a little bit here. So kind of a GPP option, probably be in line with the field on them. The rest of the team, though, I'm probably just going to be in line with the field or slightly underweight to the field on for this Birmingham Stallions team overall. Going to move down to Houston Roughnecks. This is one of the teams that we do not have a depth chart for at this point in time. If Nolan Henderson starts at quarterback, $8,900 GPP option will be overweight to the field on him because I feel like at that point in time, he's probably going to get most of the game. And if he plays all right with the rushing upside that he has, he's probably going to be one of the better options overall this week. Got Mark Thompson at running back, $8,000, solid GPP option. I'll probably be a little overweight to the field on him. TJ Bledger behind him, $5,500. Did not practice on Wednesday and Thursday due to an ankle injury. Probably not going to play this week. So Ezra Gray will probably be active. And then Kirk Mayer was activated off IR last night. So we'll see ultimately whether or not he plays or not. Technically, he's on the inactive roster at this point in time. And then we move down to the receiving options. It's really just Cheesecakeism, Justin Hall, once again, GPP options for both of them. Probably slightly overweight to the field on both of them once again as well. If you really want to take a chance on like Emmanuel Butler, Anthony or T. Williams, somebody like that, you definitely could do it. But it's not something I would recommend doing myself personally. Get down there, Roughnecks defense. They're playing against the Showboats. GPP option there. Probably be a little bit overweight to the field. I hate this price tag of $4,100 though, but Showboats offense really kind of struggling as of late. That offensive line's allowing pressures. Obviously, probably looking at Josh Love at quarterback this week, who is a little bit turnover prone at the same time as well. And speaking of which, that Showboats team, we'll see who ultimately ends up playing at quarterback. Case Cook was a full participant in practice all week. Troy Williams a little bit banged up with his finger injury. Josh Love been getting most of the playing time last two games, so we'll see ultimately who ends up being at quarterback. I really don't think it matters all that much at this point. But, if it's Josh Love, probably going to look better for that Roughnecks defense. If it's Case Cook, maybe you could make an argument to play him. But just kind of the way they've approached everything as of late, it's just not too exciting overall. Running back, I still think you can get to Darius Victor at $7,500. Probably, in line with the field, overweight to the field on him slightly. He's still getting the large majority of that workload. Maybe they try to work in Titus Swen just a little bit more to kind of see where he lines up with the team moving forward. And then for the receiving options, it's kind of the same three guys at wide receiver. It's been all season. Vinny Papale, David Davis, Jonathan Adams. Last week we saw Davis take a step back. Adams had the really big games. So we'll see how it all shakes out. If you want to be in line with the field, probably on all three of them. Not really too much of a stand to be made there. Maybe you get to a little bit more Davis this week because people are down on him with the big Adams week, but kind of remains to be seen. Saturada, I still think you could play at tight end, kind of a GPP option, a leverage option this week overall. And then at Showboats defense, I have not been excited about them all season, but $3,900 GPP option going against the Roughnecks this week. You can get there if you really want to. If they can stop that running game against the Roughnecks, could be an all right matchup for them overall. Moving down to the Michigan Panthers, it looks like Danny Etling will still be the starting quarterback. At least that's how it's listed at this point in time, even though Bryce Perkins is probably their best option at quarterback at this point. So, if you really want to play one of the two, it'd probably be Bryce Perkins, but a little bit more of a leverage play if you're going to do that. And then a running back, Matthew Colburn, is going to be inactive this week. So it's going to be Nate McCreary and Toa Tua this week. So personally, I think McCreary would be the guy to get to $5,000 potential cash game option there at that. In terms of the receiving options, Marcus Sims is going to be inactive once again this week. I have Trey Quinn and Siasim Mayer, both listed as GPP options. If you want to take a shot on a Devin Gray, if you want to take a shot on a Samson Nakua, you could definitely do that as well. Oddly enough, Devin Ross is not listed in the prices this week, so we'll see if that gets added before lock. But he is listed as a starter for this team, so we'll see what that looks like. Obviously, he did come back off IR recently, but he did have a price tag last week, so it's kind of weird that he doesn't have one this week. And, he had a decent week last week, so maybe he even be a GPP option if you want to get there as well. One note at tight end is that Derek Dees Jr. will be active for the first time all season. Really don't expect too much for him or this group just in general. Panthers defense, not really getting there against the Stallions this week overall. I think the Panthers have a decent defense. They're a little bit banged up right now at that. So going against the Stallions, probably not the greatest matchup in the world there, though. Moving down to the Arlington Renegades, I'm going to throw this up here too for Luis Perez as a GPP option. One of the quarterbacks that's probably going to play the whole game or most of the game. So have to bet on guys like that. $9,900, not a bad price tag. He's been playing pretty well as of late as well. And then in terms of the running backs, if you really want to get to like Devin Darrington as kind of a pay down option at $4,200, you could look at that just to get a little bit different this week overall with kind of everybody else going to, your Nate McCreary, your Morgan Ellisons of the world. So way to get different. Not really too sold on Davion Smith, although he's getting most of the snaps at this point in time. And then we move down to wide receivers. So Javonta Payton, JP Payton was placed on IR this week. So we're probably going to see a little bit more of Isaiah Winstead. Once again, kind of a GPP option there at $4,300, although he's been a little bit banged up in practice this week as well. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. If he's unable to go for any reason, we probably would see a little bit more like Meningo and Winningham just in general. Burnett would definitely get a bump up in that situation as well. Tyler Vaughn, solid GPP option. Sal Cannell has been really good as of late, so he's a solid GPP option as well. Probably in line with the field on Sal Cannell, slightly overweight to the field on Tyler Vaughn's, maybe even overweight to the field on Luis Perez this week overall. And then Seth Green had a really strong week for them last week. Maybe he's even a pay down option this week, with Peyton missing in that receiving game as well. And seeing if they use a little bit more two tight end sets just in general. For that Renegades defense, they go against the DC Defenders who, their offense has had their struggles this year, and they lost their best wide receiver in Kelvin Harmon not too long ago. $3,400, viable pay down option there, maybe slightly overweight to the field. And then we get down to the Defenders team. Jordan Teamu at quarterback, I'm going to call him a GPP option, probably slightly overweight to the field on him this week. Has a little bit of rushing upside, although he really hasn't shown it quite as much this season. I think he's probably a safe bet to play the majority of the game, at least compared to a lot of these other quarterbacks. Their team's not really playing for anything at this point in time, although I do still think it matters a lot to him just in general. In terms of their wide receivers, it's kind of a mess at this point in time. Brandon Smith's kind of been the guy that's taken over on the outside in place of Kelvin Harmon at $4,600. Pay down option if you want to get there. Ty Scott, GPP option coming off a down week, so probably be in line with the field, slightly overweight to him. And then Kiki Q2 is starting to turn it on a little bit more, play a couple more snaps, so he's definitely in play at $6,000. Alex Ellis has been a pretty solid tight end as of late, so he's a GPP option, but I'm still probably going to be underweight to the field on him. And last week they involved him, they involved Kane Smith and Briley Moore McKinney, all kind of as tight ends. All three of them played, right around 50% of snaps, give or take a couple of percentage points. So can't really bet too much on which one's going to stand out overall. Oddly enough, Briley Moore McKinney does not have a price tag listed this week, so that is kind of unfortunate there, although he wasn't like super involved in his return last week. In terms of that Defenders defense, I like them in general. However, I don't really like this matchup against the Renegades, so they're probably just going to be a team that I do ultimately end up passing on for this week overall. Then we move down to the Brahmas, so it is listed that Chase Garbers will be the starter this week, so I think he is a solid GPP option. and I see that this is in the wrong spot, so I'm just going to move this as we're talking. So it's nice to see him back. He played the majority of snaps last week. I think he's probably going to play the majority this week, so he's probably the guy I would be most likely to get to at quarterback this week overall. Both of their top running backs are inactive this week in John Love and Anthony McFarland, so it looks like Morgan Ellison is going to be the guy at $5,800. Cash game option there. If you want a dart throw, Puka Williams Jr. behind him is only $3,300, technically listed as a wide receiver, but you can get some snaps at running back this week as well. And then Calvin Turner Jr. is another one of their wide receivers. He did play running back at Hawaii, so it wouldn't be surprised to see him get some snaps at running back as well. In terms of the wide receivers that we got here, we got Landon Akers at $4,000. I think he's a potential paydown option this week, just in general. $4,000 should be on the field a little bit more. More targets to go around with no Cody Lattimore this week, who was placed on IR earlier this week. So it opens things up quite a bit. Justin Smith, $5,200. GPP option, I think I'm probably going to be in line with the field on him. Probably slightly overweight. I think you can get to some Kirkland. I don't really have him listed as GPP, but I think he could be there. But it's also like one of those risks. Do they take him out of the game early, since this game doesn't mean too much, even though they're playing the same exact team in the very next week? And then Marquez Stevenson, not really too excited to get to him. Cade Warner did sign with the team this week, Kurt Warner's son, so he will be active this week. It's going to be a fun little story there since they are playing in St. Louis. You know, obviously his dad kind of got his big breakthrough there and spent a lot of time there just in general. And then in terms of their tight end, Alize Mack is the only guy they got left there, so he looks like a potential GPP paydown option just in general for this week. And then Brahmas defense I have listed as a GPP option going against the Battlehawks. I thought initially Manny Wilkins was going to play quarterback, so that's probably going to lower it just a little bit for me just in general, although they do have a pretty good defense overall. Moving down to quarterback, we got A.J. McCarron, technically listed as a starter, $10,500. We'll see ultimately how deep he plays into this game. So technically I have him GPP option with the question mark behind him, so I'm probably going to be a little bit lower on him than the field. At running back, I don't know what to make of the situation whatsoever. Jacob Sailors has been really good this year, but all three running backs are active for the first time this year, so we'll see how that ultimately ends up shaking out. I'm probably just going to try to avoid it altogether. And then at wide receiver, I have Blake Jackson listed as a paydown option. He's been playing more snaps as of late, and then the same thing with Steve Mitchell Jr. at $4,800. Not really trying to get to too many other players. If you want to get to some Darius Shepard, you could probably do it as well. Marcel Aitman, Jerome Cap, and Jeff Thomas, who was signed this week to replace Jamarcus Bradley, who went on IR, are all going to be inactive. And then at tight ends, these guys are barely playing now at this point in time, so not interested in either one. Battlehawks defense, $4,200 going against the Brahmas. I am not getting there whatsoever this week. So that is kind of the quick little rundown on my sheet overall. I know it's a little bit of a cluster this week just in general with the lack of news that we have about how deep into the games these guys are actually going to play. So once again, I would say treat it a little bit like an NFL preseason DFS slate if that's something you played in the past. As the night moves along, I will be updating this sheet on my Patreon page, so definitely be sure to check that out as the night moves along, as we get those depth charts for the 4 remaining teams as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core picks Monday through Friday. And then I do have my UFL DFS video, this video coming out once a week. I'll see whether or not I do it for the playoffs. Let me know down in the comments if you guys would like to see this continue next week for the first round of the playoffs, and then ultimately for the single game slate for the championship game as well. I know CFL DFS is right around the corner, so I'll probably be doing some of that content once again as well. Since I did have quite a few of you last season that requested that, and then did kind of enjoy it throughout the CFL season, which we did have some pretty strong performances there. I don't think there was a takedown, but I know there was a second place, a fourth place. Some pretty strong performances throughout the CFL DFS season, so definitely be sure to check that content once that comes out as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in prop betting, if you're interested in sports betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you are a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Parlay Play and Prize Picks, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, a good weekend overall, and some pretty good luck in UFL DFS for week number 10.